which today we are so excited to have the incomparable composer, arranger, conductor, and musical director Marie Douglas with us. Hello, Marie. Nice to see you here. It's super cool because we have all encountered Marie's work at a different point within our education, and I know for me, there's more recent things that got me super interested in what you're doing. But before we even get into that, let the people know who you are, what you're doing, and just kind of what's happening right now in your sphere.
Well, as Lauren so eloquently stated, I am a composer, uh, among other things, but I think that's what I see myself as mostly. Um, a musician. I play French horn. If you want to go back even further, into my heritage, I guess. I'm not like your typical Southern, you know, black girl, I guess. I did go to church. My parents were very religious, but I wasn't a church musician, So my musicianship comes from joining band in high school, actively listening my whole life because I really wanted to be a composer since as long as I can remember. But yeah, and eventually going to a HBCU and at Florida A&M, and being in the 100, learning all these different styles of music, and it just made me really multifaceted. And inside of that band, a lot of stuff happened as far as the arranging and the composition of the music. It was really layered. It was deep. You had a bunch of genres sometimes stacked on top of each other, and that kind of influences who I am today a whole lot. But anyway, just being somebody who is, from Atlanta, always looking at. You're probably gonna hear my cat. He's right here. He might jump up here. Just he may join the conversation.
Yeah.
But coming from Atlanta and just being kind of inundated in a city that was starting to really take off quickly with entertainment and so many talented people around you and so much culture, it was just real ripe. And so, going to HBCU after that, now just being, teaching, collecting all this data about culture in South Florida and Atlanta, and then now going to school at Memphis for my DMA in composition. It's just like it's turning to this hodgepodge. So you said what's going on in my spirit? I'm like swimming in a bowl of soup.
Musical soup.
That I mean, first of all, we all of us are from the South and all from Georgia as well, and so anytime
Oh,
we have
sweet.
someone on, we're like, "Yo, wait a minute,
You said Atlanta. We was like,
we're in Atlanta."
I swear we only bring Georgia people on the
We
podcast.
do.
I mean,
it really
And
feels like
rightfully
Prejudice.
so.
because
Come
honestly,
on.
we talented. Okay,
Right.
we are on the map. Okay, look, come on, we're Georgia natives. I mean, me and Michael are from Macon, so we were like about an hour and a half below.
Yeah.
Lauren was over there all the way in Augusta, almost in North
Tell
Augusta.
Carolina.
you.
So, but
See,
we
I
all
want to really visit them cities and get into those. Like I'm from the inner perimeter, so if
Ah,
You're
you've
like
seen
from
some
there.
other, we scared to go outside of that sometimes.
y'all scared to go out of 285 a little bit. Y'all scared right
Yes.
at 285. See.
We just gonna leave it right here. But I now that I'm older, a little more aware of myself, I want to go out and like really see, uh, you know, Georgia for real, where there are other pockets of, talent and culture,
it's
Uh,
you know,
let me just tell
everywhere.
you, come down to Macon. I mean, look,
it's
Macon,
going down.
you better come down. The culture, I mean, it is really popping. So I'm just saying, like, come on down. I look,
Right.
it'll be like an hour and a half drive. Sometimes it might be long. You know how Atlanta traffic is.
Might be 2.5 with
Right,
traffic.
might be two. I know driving from college because we went up in Kennesaw, so we had to go through Atlanta to go home. We're just
Mm,
sitting here like, am I ever gonna get home? Am I going to get home through this
Well,
traffic? So you got to either
especially
go
going south,
Oh
exactly.
God.
You're gonna have to go in the morning time or at
apocalyptic.
night.
And that stupid, what is it, the tollway? That don't even work. Like, I don't know why they put it down there.
It's the new thing.
There's one in Florida that like the Sun Pass. You probably been down there. I guess they were trying to see if it'll work, but I don't know.
Not in Atlanta.
Everything don't work everywhere.
That is true. That is true. And so I know, like, for real, a lot of Atlanta people that were in the perimeter, they kind of stay there. So what made you go to FAMU? I mean, you had Spelman, you had Clark, you had HBCUs there, but you chose to go all the way down to Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
What was like, what was calling you?
So I really didn't care about college or any of that sort of thing before I saw the Marching 100. And so, I know y'all seen it's one of these shows that's on Netflix, and it's showcasing Bethune-Cookman's band. Yes. And the girl's like, I went to college for band.
Yeah.
And everybody cracking her.
Yeah.
But dang it, that's what I went to college for.
Exactly.
I went to college I was inspired by the program at FAMU. Once I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, I know that's where I need to go. Yeah. I heard the arrangements, like I told you, the way that they were crafted. Well, first of all, like going way back, Quincy Jones was my fixation. Once I found out who made Michael Jackson's like Thriller and Off the Wall music, I was like, who is that? A black man?
Yeah.
Start learning about him, and he's like educated, like, he's trained.
Very trained.
So I was like, okay, well, I felt like I was gonna have to, have that. I was gonna have to be equipped with that, education and stuff like that. So I don't know where these thoughts came from. Maybe it's like some sort of person whispering to me, but no resources. Nobody was saying this to me. It was just like looking around. But but truly what got me to FAMU was those arrangements, hearing that band, seeing the complicated things that the band did. And in Atlanta, like you said, it's plenty of examples. Like, Clark had a fine band back in my time, of being a kid. Who else? Morris Brown. If Morris Brown had been open, FAMU wouldn't have had a chance. Everybody was just like, "Oh, I'm going to Morris Brown." I don't have to have any of my ducks in a row. Really, I just really got to be passionate about band to go to Morris Brown and get into that program, because they just weren't gatekeeping in that way. That wasn't their focus. FAMU, on the other hand, has always had a standard of like, we're not, you got to come in with these sort of things in place, but that was their focus. Every one of these HBCUs has a different marketing, just like every other regular college does. So it's like, just wanting to go there was me knowing exactly what I needed to be respected, I think, and it has paid off. And it's not necessarily respect like I thought it was. It was more like, it turned into more like a network of people. On average in that band, when I was there was at least like 375 people. So each year going in and out, you're meeting these new people and impressing upon, like, you just have no clue what that does for your network. And I think that we underestimate that as far as, just having these forced social situations being really enhancers of our network, Anyway, you're going to ask these questions and you finish the conversation. So I'm gonna ramble.
That's very important. I mean, networking, especially us as Black musicians and Black people in this field where it is predominantly not for us. So we have to rely on, our people to, get us in those places and things like that. So it is very, very important. And I know when I was growing up, originally I wanted to go to Morehouse, like, because I remember choir was something that I really just loved. And I remember I went and saw the ASO Christmas thing, and they would always have Spelman, they would have Morehouse and everything. Right. And I just remember they were singing Bethlehemu. And I just remember like, oh my God, that was my first time seeing a Black male conductor. That was my first time seeing Black men singing. I was just like, what in the world? So like Morehouse is like my number one for a very long time. And just knowing that going there would have been like the best, but things, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But the network in itself is very important. And that is something that I've learned, unfortunately, but fortunately, that we have to, really kind of stick with. So
You
absolutely.
mentioned unfortunately, but fortunately, that's real talk.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a crapshoot, and we're all learning.
Mm-hmm. We learn.
And for me, I'll point out, going more onto the compositional side, that especially when it, because I'm performance by nature, I play flute, and so especially these past 2 years, I will have to say after undergrad, I kind of hit a thing where I started actually thinking for myself. I think just a little bit when it comes to programming, if that makes sense, and a really a big thing I've been getting more into and trying to think about more is like who I'm programming on my recitals and who I'm like encouraging people to go play, because we have under oh, what should I play, what should I play, like, and it's now getting to a point where I'm like, I remember sitting and thinking like about how music can reflect us and how we can feel affirmed by our music, and trying to go more into that arena of like, I want to play music that I feel like I am expressing myself and I feel connected to, right? And so I'm like, okay, so like let's start with like, I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm from the South, I'm thinking about all these elements, and I'm like, I want to play more women or more music by black women. And then I'm like sitting and thinking like, I have never, at that point, I had never played, I don't think, a piece by a black woman within an, or like in an ensemble, like a large ensemble. I was really heavily thinking about it, and I was like, I don't think that has ever happened. And I was looking back at my own music, and I was like, my like personal repertoire, and I was like, it's not there. It's like, so in my music, Lauren is not reflected in what I have programmed and what I have played in the past. And I didn't hold that against myself. I wanted to feel a little icky for a moment about that, but then I have to remember there's structures, there are things that are we go through, we have to go through, because that is how we are seen as serious. That's how we get the degree. So it's been a conversation I've been having a lot. And when I see like when I see other like young black composers, and especially black women composers, like going out and making a name for themselves, I'm like, please, more. Like, I need that. I push it, I celebrate it, and I'm like, we need this because I need it. I personally myself need this music. And so I just wanted to point that out before we even start talking about compositions, about how significant it is just to have you here,
Thank you. Those words, y'all have no clue how much that means when I hear people say that. So it just fuels me to keep going. So I really appreciate it.
Please do.
And I think it's almost like a two-way street now, going forward into like the next era of music that we're doing right now, because everybody is pushing diversity. Who is actually inviting the people to the table? Who is commissioning these works? Like, you have a consortium that I think just finally, had an end date of who can, like, when they could join and stuff. That if I was a flute player, I would have joined, but I'm a trumpet player, sadly, so I can't play all them high notes. But like, that's what we need to invite people to the table. And I, like, as Lauren, I'm a trumpet player and I'm a performer, and people ask me, what should I program? First, I always say, look at your weaknesses, look at your strengths, because I always approach it from a pedagogy standpoint. And then, okay, what can you play? What is a standard in the repertoire? Awesome. Now, what has been written now by a living composer that does the same thing as those standards? And you can ask these too. In undergrad, I was like, standards only, please. Give me my white hair and my Baroque music and all this other stuff. But now, like, I've been really trying. I think on my master's recital, 3 living composers, only 1 dead composer. And I really tried to push, like, now living composers. Me and Lauren are in a duo. We've commissioned a couple of works now. I've commissioned a couple of works. Like, we have to get living composers' musics played before they, like, pass away, because then at that point people will then sometimes forget about people. We have seen people through the realm of wind band music, especially, haven't had their music played recently because they're also not living. It's like, we're not reviving these old works. We need to revive and keep pushing forward, because then we need to see where this came from and see the lineage and the heritage. Like, there's so many Ulysses K's works that are out of print, but some people are still playing, that I wish everybody could play. Because then we see that, and then we see the tie to you or Kevin Day or Kataj Copley. Like we see all these new composers, and it started like back then. But Ulysses K didn't get the playtime. Neither did Florence Price. Neither did George Walker. I mean, the list can go on, and their music is fantastic. And y'all's music is fantastic. And when one of my biggest moments of like sitting in I love brass quintet because that's what I love to do. I was sitting in a recital and I saw Kevin Day and George Walker on the same program. I almost died. I was like, this is it. This is what the future needs to be. And it's like, it's great to have composers like you and all these other ones that we mentioned pushing us forward. And it's on the performers to play your music, to breathe life into it. Because music is a living, breathing art. It's not something that's just like, oh, here's a paper. I have now completed a degree. Because then we hear those recitals and no one's musically driven. I want to go to recitals that make me want to create, not just play music, make me want to create. And I can see that you're like here for it and I'm here for it with your, like, it's great.
Yes. That is really key. You know, it's been times when I've kind of like given up on my artistry or, you know, really want to put that foot forward. Because I was in school for music education and and performance, composition wasn't an option really. So, you know, that thing you mentioned about going to these things and wanting to create off of them, like, being inspired by your surroundings. I think that's something that happens to me often that has kept me going, like hearing different music out there and hearing people just try crazy things. And, you know, more recently, folks like Jacob Collier and Corey Henry and, you know, just YouTube in general.
Yep.
As a whole, it's just so useful to, you know, me trying things and pushing the envelope and keeping on going. So,
I agree.
You know, definitely just the world of cohabitation and correlation and globalization, et cetera. You can add all these adjectives, but just working together to create these magnificent creations is on 1,000 right now.
Yeah, I mean, because I was reading in your bio and you were just saying there were, you know, some composers that you've been inspired by, from Nathaniel Dett, Duke Ellington, Florence Price, Margaret Buns, and which when I saw Nathaniel Dett, that's usually not a name that like people would say or really, you know, music, because I performed his music before and I love to listen to his music. But a lot of people surprisingly don't even know about a lot of his works. I think recently there was a transcription of his work for Wind Band. And I remember singing, I was like, Nathaniel Dett actually had like an orchestral piece or something like that to be transcribed. Like I didn't even know that. So
which one was it, Dina? Was it the Order of Moses?
I cannot.
It might have been.
I'm gonna have to find it, and when I find it, I'm gonna let you know. Because I was just like, what in the world? Like I didn't even know this, and I only knew his arrangements of spirituals because usually that's what you would think spirituals. And again, a lot of that music was lost in time. Who knows?
Exactly.
People had a lot more music. And same with the other artists. And I think we did in Black History Month, one of y'all, please remind me, but I think it was Florence Price, but it was a piece that she had premiered and like it didn't get any play until like 75 years later because it was a Black female performed. It was a piano piece and then it was never played again because it went into obscurity and then found 75 years later. And now it's like, you know, big. And honestly, a lot of these works now, and I would say in music, is music that was written long time ago in the Jim Crow segregation era. And now because of, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement and everything, we're like, we is not letting it off your throats, okay? You was finna play this music. We not letting off until you take this culture. Recognize.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, we finna put this pressure on you, and that's period. Okay, so all of this music that was made by people who look like us is finally getting played, and some people are like, oh my gosh, like this music, it's so good, it's so new, and I'm like, actually, very old. But because of the bigotry and the racism that our field that, you know, musicians, we're supposed to be so liberal and so, you know, free thinking and all of this.
Right.
I hate it so much.
But we push all this beautiful music away because, oh, they're Black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. So we are staying with this pressure. Just know that.
Amen.
Just know that, because, and along with that pressure, we opening doors for the new Black artists to come and do their artistry, because they belong here just as much as these white composers, as they get in all these commissions. No shade, no tea, but as they're getting their commissions from big, you know, places like Midwest and stuff like this, why didn't we choose somebody who has a minority, who is a minority? You know, Midwest gives out this big consortium piece. Why was that not given to a person of color? Just saying.
Anthony, was it Cave of the Winds or After the Cakewalk?
I think it was might have been After the Cake. I think it was that one.
Okay, because I think that one has the 2014. I was just looking, like, as y'all were talking about it, I was like, let me go look and see if I can find something. I've never heard of this composer, and I cannot wait to dig in. And like, that's one good thing about like all three of us. And when we have like guests on, we get exposed to new stuff, reading different people's like bios and what inspires them. And it's like, it's education for us. And I think that's what. One thing is lost, that I think is really lost in this whole talk about let's be better, let's be more diverse. You have to admit what you don't know. And you have to admit your own faults. Until that happens, you're not going to get better. You're just going to be like caking on like this stuff, this information, without realizing what you didn't know in the first place, and also that you didn't care to know.
And like, you have to be genuine about it, okay? Yeah. Let's not program something, oh, because I have to check off a box. Let's not do that, because now you're doing a disservice. You're doing a disservice. And have you personally felt that with your music, that you're like, do these people actually respect what I'm doing, or are they really just checking this box? Have you felt that with your music before?
I have no clue. I mean, they might be checking a box. I don't know if y'all seen this, like y'all watched the show Atlanta, but this latest episode where, you know, basically the point is, I'm just like, you'll see it if you watch it. But I'm just like, whatever. If y'all want to buy this stuff, then you can buy it. My thing is, you know, you're gonna get this culture.
Right.
You know, you're gonna take it. Whatever you buy from me is going to be cultured. It's never, ever, ever, ever again going to be trying to fit into a box of whatever your expectation or whatever you studied or specialize in. You know, so if you want to check a box, just know that your whole audience, you as a conductor, who probably doesn't conduct this stuff often, your students who potentially don't play this often, or your ensemble, whatever level you're at, you know, y'all are about to be educated on something that is completely probably foreign to you. Yeah. So get ready to struggle, and you're ready to try to figure out how to interpret, and email me and ask how this should go and that should go, and send me recordings, and I'll be there. I'll help you.
Right. Let's talk about that, because again, what Michael was saying earlier, with with living composers, you can email them. Yep. You can just say, can I have some better understanding of this? Or are we playing this right? Should we do something different? That's the whole purpose of this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I looking at from an outside coming in, I know people are very quick to email certain composers. Very quick to be like, oh, I'm playing your work, because those composers have clout.
Yeah, clout chasers do anything for clout.
Clout chasers.
They want these clouds because they can talk to them at Midwest and rub elbows and everything. And it's
they
like,
tag them on Facebook, tag them on.
Tag them. But here's the thing: me and Anthony were talking about this, and Lauren. There's a big piece going around this. A lot of people are playing that. Anthony is in love with. I'm in love with. It's the Concerto for Wind Ensemble by Kevin Day.
Yeah.
Beautiful piece. And other pieces like the Concerto for Wind Ensemble by Kataj Copley. I'm pretty sure your piece will. I hope it doesn't happen, but it might happen. they will get played like it's a new wind band work. And it's like there's something new within the wind band medium, instead of like reaching down into the depths of what it meant for y'all as composers and what it's supposed to mean and what it's supposed to give them and the performance and thing. But no, they're going to treat it like this new wind band work and this weird textures and stuff. And they're missing the point. Music doesn't have to be hard all the time. Music doesn't have to be easy all the time. But what we have to do as performers, conductors, and composers, we put ourselves into it. We go to the deepest, darkest depths of what that music is and what it's supposed to give and give it to the audience. Because if we don't, that's automatic. Like that was not a good performance. I mean, if you don't do the research, it's not a good performance. We were taught, all of us were taught, and everybody out there, if you go train what rest classical tradition and at a university or conservatory, you're taught to dig down deep into Handel, Haydn, Hummel, Bach. Like I can just Beethoven. I can keep going. Brahms. All the Hemiolas. All the Hemiolas. Anyways, like we're taught to go deep down into them, but we don't do it with living composers that you can literally probably call. Like some of these people we know, and they'll be like, please call me. Like, please, I will give you my stuff. You can annoy me. Please call me because I want my work and I want your students that have never felt seen to be seen and to feel their culture within this work. And now they will have a reinvigorated love for music and band.
It's also about that feeling. It's about the feeling. I mean, especially with like your pieces and the concerto and things like that. Black music, hip hop, R&B, it's a feeling. It is something that is innate within our culture and our feeling and our just being. And if you look at the piece very analytically, you're not going to, I mean, I'm pretty sure in music, whenever they do like a jazz piece or something that has a little soul, you'll hear the person say, you got to feel it. You got to, you just got to groove with it. Mm-hmm. Well, here is the piece.
All you got to do with this.
Right. You got to groove with it. And if it's not grooving, guess what? It's not
wrong.
It's wrong. Because that is the point. When you listen to an R&B track or you listen to a hip hop track, it has a groove. It has a feeling. You got to be with that. Okay. You can sit here and analyze the whole score from yesterday until the day you die, and you still probably perform it wrong if you do not have that feeling. And that's just that.
That's the thing though. Like you're absolutely right. We're thinking about stuff like, what we've been trained to perform well, stuff like Lincolnshire, however you say it. Lincolnshire, San Diego.
Yes.
But these songs, these pieces, we got to perform them just so, and we have to interpret it. We can't make it sound like jazz. We can't make it sound like hip hop, R&B. We can't make it sound like spiritual, but it does need to sound like folk music, and it needs to sound like folk music of its region, or etc.
Right.
And so we do our best to learn that vernacular, and what's his name? Making sure composer.
Granger.
Y'all don't have to edit that out. I really don't. I'm not.
Oh no, we have for lack of we've shitted on his name enough on this podcast already. Look,
I've also butchered some composers' names. It's great.
That composer, we've talked about him and his behaviors enough on this podcast. If anybody listening, you want to go back, it's probably earlier this season, so you can go back and listen. Just go back.
I think I might do.
Yes.
But yeah, his stuff was really detailed, and so we could perform it pretty well, and that's what I hope to do as well. Like I want to make sure my scores are really professional. We might say stuff is maybe some of it might be simple. I don't know. I think the biggest part of some of the music that happens these days is the interpretation of it. But anyway, I want all my stuff to be really, really detailed, so that that's another thing. So people have a good idea of how to interpret it. For me. So. Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
No,
Lauren.
no, no, no. You finish. I want to hear this.
Well, that was just it. I was just gonna keep running.
No, I mean, I just wanted to point out, like, just like we were talking about, talking about Lincolnshire, all these massive pieces, like the standard wind band rep that we have played, they're always approached with this level of like just high respect, high regard, and almost just like like not nervousness, but just like an approach of like you need to respect this and understand this is a masterwork. And then there are other pieces that get performed as the fun pieces, right? As the kind of blow off pieces, as the pieces you kind of just, oh, you'll get it. It's a groove, and like that's it. And so that's the biggest issue I have with that is that like it's a different interpretation, and they also the whoever the conductor like are the conductors are or the conductor is in that a situation, it's up to them to decide, am I going to approach these pieces like in the same way, similarly, like in their own respects, or am I going to make this one obviously the one that's important and the other ones are the throw off, put at the beginning and the end piece, you know what I mean? Michael, what's
Right.
up?
Are you talking about one of the programs we played on, maybe undergrad?
No, why would I? No,
that,
why would I? Why would I be? No, of course
that had
not.
the Hindemith Symphony in B flat, and also I don't know what groove piece you're talking about.
Mm.
Okay,
Oh,
they being look, they're being shaded. I'm just gonna flat out say it. So they put a Mother of Revolution at the end of so obviously the meat and potato pieces was Symphony in B flat. And then the groove piece that was supposed to, just been a fun little thing. The closer, of course, was Mother Revolution. And so,
How'd
supposed
it
to,
go?
huh?
How'd it go? Did y'all kill it?
it was groovy. I will say there was, everyone in the audience was a little,
They were dancing.
After the story was told wrong, they did okay.
Yeah.
After the story was told wrong. Nah.
That's again,
see that's the thing with me. Like, if you gonna do it, especially and here's one thing I've been bringing up. Every university is technically a research institution.
Right.
That's what every university is. That's what we go to.
Exist otherwise.
Right.
So, like, if we're gonna be here at a research institution, when like I love Mother Revolution, and I love that it's approachable from both high school and a collegiate sense. If we're gonna do it from a university perspective, you better know your research. You better tell the story right. You better know stuff that's not in the little program notes. Please, we are a researched institution. That's why I'm also a huge believer. Like, if we're going to be here studying all this music, let's revive some of these Ulysses K, George Walker, like Florence Price. Like, here at I'm at Western Michigan University. We have this thing called Western Winds, which is when the grad quintet and the faculty quintet combined. And I think hopefully in the works next year, I've talked to our director of bands. Like, hopefully they perform Florence Price's like brass octet with piano that was just revived, I think, last summer. And should be within the works because we are a research institution. We should be reviving these works and doing the due diligence so it can then be approached by high schools and other people when they have the full thing, they have a recording, they can really dig into it. But if we play stuff like a Mother Revolution and other works and we don't do the research, why are we at a university? Why are we doing what we're doing? Right. We're already undervalued as it is within the society. Yeah, you're making it worse in some aspects.
Exactly. I don't think people understand that. You do have to justify your job. It doesn't matter what you do. You do have to figure out how to justify what it is that you're choosing to spend your life doing. At least in this scheme, this universe we're in, so that is definitely one way to do it. And why not do it with the people that were forgotten and, do some justice. Do some justice.
Do some justice. I want my reparations. I still want my 40 acres and a mule, to be honest. I'm still waiting on that. So, come on.
Let me get it.
Come on.
Let me get it.
I want to, shed the spotlight on your work, Big City Lights. Like, first of all, when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, like this is something completely new, like amazing. Amazing. I remember so many people were sharing it on my timeline, and I was like, oh my goodness. So what was your inspiration really for doing that piece? And just tell us all about it.
Okay, that piece. It's probably been about a year since I wrote it, like almost to the date, like maybe about give or take a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And for a few weeks before I actually took the time to write it, I was driving around, listen to this okay, this mixtape. Sorry, my eye just started having a seizure. And this mixtape, and it was a Migos mixtape. The tape itself is like 2 years old. But I just be listening to the mixtapes just because it keeps me grounded.
Yes.
And that's pretty much how like I've always been. I've always been just going to the corner store, buy a mixtape, you know, type of girl.
Mm-hmm.
But so anyway, listen to the song on that album, on that mixtape, and it was called Water. And it's not the water that they have with DJ Mustard. And there's another water that they have, but it's not that one. It's a whole nother one.
Oh.
And you know, you could only find this on what? Something like a mixtape, right?
Mixtape, of course.
You know, something that you got dig like an underground or something. Anyway, so that song kept listening. I was listening, putting it on repeat for like 2 weeks. And then so I went home one day and just started playing on the keyboard to it, like just improvising off of it. And so we come to this. As the weeks went on, after I had the skeleton of, you know, that I added other flows from other like aspects of the song, like Offset's verse is that this trombone part. And then you have like other parts that are like Future, who isn't on that song, but it just is a like this song called F Up Some Commas. Y'all know that song. It's a like the last verse of that song. It's like the first few measures of the last verse. It's like this bass clarinet tuba part. And then like, you know, just taking stuff from all these different songs and just stacking them, putting them at different parts, and improvising off of them. The slow section is like Jacob. I told y'all Jacob Collier. I really like him. And this song he has called "In Too Deep." It's just these eighth notes. I think it's like 12/8 time for real, but I wasn't even dealing with it. I was like, let me get this out. So I just took his eighth notes and kind of, you know, sprinkled them on there, and that's like the baritone solo, euphonium solo. And then like the motifs throughout the rest of the slow section, which is called "It's a Vibe." The different names of the sections are just like, you know, slang. You all know these slang words like oh it's lit, you know.
Yes.
So you know what that means. But you know, if we had to explain it in a cultural way, I would rather have somebody else do it, but because I didn't try.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Every time somebody's like, so what is it lit? I'm like, how do you not know?
Right. Like, I'm sorry. You don't have the Urban Dictionary this, okay? Like, that's what you're going to need to do. Just
Not the Urban Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary. Useful. Use it for what it's for. Look it up.
But you know what we got to do? We got to get the little, you know, y'all got to have both of these on hand, just like we got to have both of them on hand. Just like we got to have our language and our code switch. Get this, and then get your little, type it in the go.
That's what you need.
I'm gonna die. I will say, as you were talking about your work, I pulled it up on your website, of course, and the minute I saw "It's Lit" and "It's a Vibe" in my heart, I was like, I'm happy. I love that you ain't still with some of these people. Andante,
no.
Allegretto. See, what like, the thing is, I'll use that stuff too. I don't care. I'm gonna mix it all up. Y'all gonna get this culture. Y'all gonna get my version of cantabile. La la la.
Because that's who you are. Like that's who you are, and that's what people need to realize. I am a whole person. I have many different facets of myself. And when I mix it all together, that's who I am. But just hearing your process, you I was getting very much producer vibe. Like you was gonna go in the studio with this artist here and you was laying down a track and like, because that's really what, when you were saying, I was like, you sound like a straight up producer. Like you finna go in the studio tomorrow. Y'all finna lay down some verses. Like here's the sample here. This is what I'm thinking. I was like, okay, we going in the studio tomorrow. Like is that like your process normally?
No, that's 100%. I usually am making a beat. Yeah, that's it. Because I mean, more than anything, I want to be a producer. But I found out Quincy was composing, so I was like, okay, you got to do that too, Marie. You got to be a jet too. And so now I've been blessed to kind of be able to just marry those. But yeah, that's exactly my process. For the most part, I just open up a Logic project and just start improvising over something that I like to, or something I've been thinking of, and then maybe add some trap stuff to it, or just some regular. I mean, I do all kinds of like little. Other day I was listening to Solange, and so I started doing some little, seat at the table vibes, and
yes, seat at the table. Okay, now you get into one of my favorite artists. Things. So a seat at a table, Miss Solange knows herself. Like that is that album is still on repeat right now. Like I'm still always to it. And anytime I go back to all of her albums, honestly, I'm just like, there is something new I did not hear before. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I want to ask you, what are name about 3 or 4 artists that you were listening to like currently, or that kind of stays on your shuffle that you're always just listening to?
Always listening to. I'm always listening to definitely, because I'm from Atlanta, I'm just overly loyal. So it's always some sort of that, sound. It doesn't matter who it is. Something off of TikTok or somebody I know who is pushing somebody else or whatever the case may be, trying to stay, tuned into that. And then, far as other genres or other regions, it's just a lot of hip hop. It's a whole lot of hip hop, whole lot of R&B, whole lot of oldies. Blues, real old stuff, old stuff. That stuff helps me stay grounded too. Like you were just talking about Nathaniel, this book of spirituals. By Nathaniel, listening to these, going and digging these up on YouTube or wherever I can find them. I'm in school, so I can get a little bit of access to stuff to find those recordings and just tap into those. I like Don Toliver a lot right now. He's like a Houston rapper singer.
Yeah,
I really like him. I'm going all day. Lil Baby. Yeah.
That's
that girl Omeretta. I don't know.
Omeretta. This is not Atlanta.
She just remind me of me when I was a kid or when I was younger. So it would be really nice to have her to come out like and break through, because she's not like extremely sexual or anything. She just kind of like in her own, like kind of like how me and my sister and my homegirls were. She's a tough girl. But she wasn't like just out there doing different type of stuff that she could get in trouble for. She was just chilling mostly. Probably might get into a fight here and there. just for being cute, and then rattling off of her mouth. So just the kind of person that me and my sisters were. I hope she made some more noise.
Yeah.
And she like dark skin, represent for the dark skin girls.
Right.
No colorism, but just underrepresentation is a thing.
Right.
Uplift right there.
Exactly.
But yeah, a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Strauss.
Strauss. Strauss.
Everybody. Even though he's got some bigotry in his blood.
Yeah, and they all do.
As what I was gonna say, if we had to go down the
Mm-hmm.
list, we wouldn't have any
Yeah.
left, right? But um, I'm really interested in talking about your chamber music work, just because like Michael was talking earlier about Date, that's our flute and trumpet duo. And so
Sweet.
being such a weirdly, infused ensemble, it's not like we have a lot of music out there that, is written for our ensemble specific. So we're always looking at commissions, and I was looking at your chamber works and I saw Trey, and being a flute player, obviously that was the first one my mind went to, but then also I knew it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I already know, and I clicked it and I was reading it. I was like, okay, I'm glad I felt that connection before I even clicked on the bio to even know. And so this piece being for flute, clarinet, horn with percussion in there as well, I immediately was like, how did I not know that this existed, and how quickly can I program this on my on the next chamber recital? Because, well, I want you to talk about it. I can read it, but I want you to hear it from you more about the process of creating this piece, Trey.
I'll tell you, Trey is really special, man. Trey is that piece that like made me really start writing for real, like Marie. Uh, I had ended up deciding upon. I was in a program. I was working at the school called Dillard Center for the Arts. One of the most fun times of my life with my freshman brother Sheldon. Uh,
Shout out Sheldon.
yeah, and I was in school at the same time, and I was inspired by my surroundings. Definitely, those students that were so talented around there, and so I was just getting so much inspiration at the time. So easily, it was an easy choice for my capstone to for this program I was in, this master's program, Southern Utah. They had a Master of Music Technology, and so that I did that program. Anyway, doing the capstone, I read this book by his parents called Rest in Power. You probably heard of it. And reading it, you go through everything. They're really humanizing him. They're telling you about him as a kid, as a boy with so much promise. Anyway, so I read that whole thing and I'm inspired to kind of make it like a multimedia sort of piece as opposed to just writing a piece. And yeah, I I ended up using this. That was about when I got this book, and I found some spirituals that were in there. I don't really remember which ones right now because you know, I don't know. I think if I listen to it, I can tell you because I can hear the words. But anyway, I used a couple spirituals from there and just improvised. And the one of the hardest parts, other than reading the book, was going and scouring the internet for the the media portion, like the videos and things like that, and telling the story of like the happenstance. It was kind of like film score in a way, and like especially like depicting the parts where he was fighting with George Zimmerman. Eventually, he shot him. Yeah, it was crazy. I'm sorry. That is a that's a tough one right there. But it changed me, and now I am never writing other than that voice, other than that improvisation sounding like true to my roots kind of thing. Because before that piece, I was like, I'm gonna try to sound like Strauss all the time. I'm gonna try to sound like Bruckner or whoever else or Granger or Henneman. But that piece made me go boing, never again. That was like
How
2018.
sorry.
Mhm.
How what word would you give to young, like younger, like maybe high school, undergraduate composers that are trying to find their voice? And like what advice would you tell them to like how to search for that within themselves or how to search for that within their new compositions and other things like that?
Probably find the thing that you like the most and the thing that is most natural to you that comes out of you is what you should certainly be doing. Your pedigree is if you're, and then what your target market is like, okay, I'm composing differently for different people. I'm not writing like this if I'm writing for Southern's marching band. I'm giving them exactly what they want, so, just when you're trying to find your voice, write a whole lot and consider your audience or your customer and write what you love to write because that's your voice.
Voice. I saw that you had a piece called Pride for horn, euphonium, and tuba. Where did that kind of come from? And also horn, tuba, euphonium. Interesting combination.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were these friends that I made up in when my husband was working at Arkansas at this school called Henderson State University. And they had a trio of horn, euphonium, and tuba. And they're like, oh my God, we love Listen to the Lambs, blah, blah, blah. They really like my music. Lambs is like in the thing, that piece that I transcribed, but my husband played it at that school and they heard it and they was like, oh, you play it right time before.
Right.
And so they, that was like my first ever for real commission, identify in some way as, with the, not necessarily identify with it, but, they had, empathy and all this and believe in the cause of, the LGBTQ, community. And so, they felt like that was a good, because I gave a few suggestions like the Black community, blah, 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 blah. They were like, well, maybe this would be better. So I was like, heck yeah, okay, cool. Either way, I'm right for somebody. And so what I ended up using for that song, a lot of my inspiration was folks that were people who had like in a way aligned themselves either knowingly or unknowingly with the community from different genres. And so folks like you can hear like Young Thug in there if you listen really hard. Like maybe the second movement of it. And then some like Lady Gaga, some Frank Ocean vibes. You could just yeah. So
I love that. I love how like you really just bring all these different, music into what is known as classical, whatever that term means, or colloquially that people say our music is. I love how you bring those genres into this. It is absolutely fantastic. And I just want to say thank you for being part of that change that is so needed right now in this field, because your voices needs to be heard, your music needs to be heard, and you are really making that big change. So thank you so much for just honestly just being you and doing what you do. So that's just thanks.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. Thank y'all for documenting all this. Y'all are having this podcast with this, this is important. So thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And y'all better go listen to this music.
I'm telling you.
Heather.
Immediately. By
if y'all want, I'll let y'all I'll send y'all so y'all can hear the new flute concerto I just did.
Yes.
I'm gonna email it to you, Lauren. So
thank you. I would love that. We
let y'all
literally
get
were
a little
just
perusal
talking
score.
about that. Yes.
And
cool.
Tell them where they can literally follow you everywhere so that they stay up with you, because they need to be behind you and with everything that you do.
Oh, sweet. Well, my Instagram is at Marie_Douglas_music. It's really personal, but I have all my music stuff out there. But I mean, I don't say anything crazy. I do say stuff crazy, but it's just like Black people stuff. And period. And then I have my website www.marieadouglas.com, where you can see all the stuff that I'm doing or done. Then my Facebook page is just Marie Antoinette Douglas. If you want to go find me on there, my name Antoinette apparently is supposedly spelled incorrectly. I'm gonna leave it. So that'll let you know if it's me or not.
Right.
So.
Fantastic. Well, look, we are going to follow, and at Relative Pitch, we are always behind you and everything. So we're gonna be out here telling everybody about your music. We're gonna tell it from the mountaintops down into the valleys and everywhere in between, because that's what true allyship.
I'm gonna catch the Holy Ghost messing with y'all.
Look,
it's a holy weekend, so we got a lot.
Look, we on Easter Sunday right now. I was born and raised in the church, so you know, a testimony.
Right, shout.
Gotta give it out. But I'm telling you, like, we are going to be, you know, screaming your name. I mean, we already scream everybody's name, but we definitely going to. And that's what a true ally is for everybody that's listening, that is into this podcast. That is what true allyship is. So just want to put that out there. But it's been a pleasure having you on this podcast with us.
Yes.
So thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day. And to our listeners, please go follow all the links. We'll have them down below, and have a good rest of y'all's day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.